All right, welcome to Games Overboard. I'm PJ.
I'm Dan.
I'm Shanana.
And today we are with Jason Blake, designer of Cysmic. How you doing?
Yes. Hey, how are you guys?
We are good.
We're having a great day.
Awesome. Love it.
Besides technical difficulties.
Yes. No worries. No worries.
It's been a crap week. I'm just done.
It's been a month for us, really.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's only the 5th.
Well, I mean, like from
I know.
From
Yeah,
February,
yeah.
Our 3-year-old was in the hospital actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he got like the worst version of COVID you could imagine.
You
So
spent a week in there.
Holy cow.
it's been fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I've got 11-year-old twins. So actually they're 12. They just turned 12 a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I got 12-year-old twins, boy and a girl. So it's
Wow.
fun.
Oh, you have the $1 million family. Nice.
That's right. Yep. It was a buy one, get one free deal.
Yeah, soon to be 12-year-olds. Oof.
Right.
Something.
That's awesome.
I can't.
That's great.
Anywho. So we're here today to talk about what, PJ?
Oh, we already talked about that, but we'll
Yeah,
do it
your
again.
upcoming Kickstarter.
That's right.
So,
Yes.
when are we expecting to see this game hit? Do you have a date yet?
Well, sort of. We're very, very close. I'll tell you that. We actually have not made an official announcement yet, but it's probably going to be mid-April. The problem is right now we're keeping things kind of flexible just because there's, March and April and May are very, very big months for Kickstarters, particularly with the big companies. And so I'm just me. So I want to kind of slip in there somewhere where I'm still able to breathe with my Kickstarter. I don't want to be like
I
up
think
against
yours is like fun. Like PJ was showing me all this stuff about it. Like I think yours is going to be like something awesome in comparison to everyone else on Kickstarter. Something special.
Well, I hope. I hope that's the idea.
Yeah. So yeah, like a lot of people have said, like when I ask like when's the date, and it's always like we're hoping for it to be at this time, but
it's not dissimilar from the movie industry. If when all the studios decide their movies, yeah, exactly, right. So the idea is all of the movies get set dates, and then these dates are gone throughout the year. And of course, during COVID, we saw this for the very first time. During the entire COVID area, dates shifted all over the place because they were trying to figure out the amount of money they had to work with was so minimal because the audiences were so small. They all had to move dates around like crazy. This is not dissimilar from what happens on Kickstarter. Everybody kind of puts in these little temp dates, and then all the other companies look around and go, okay. And then guys like me, I'm just like trying to find one little opening in a week that just goes, okay, that's my week. I'm going for it.
Yeah. Well, see, you guys, the smaller productions and everything have a much harder time at that because it's only you or a small team of people, and you're putting things together. Where, like the movie industry, you get these bigger companies that are like, we're putting it out.
Yeah, companies who don't need Kickstarter.
Yeah, who don't need the Kickstarter. Like, we're putting it out on this date. And just like the movie industry, you go, oh, but it's not ready yet. We haven't finished. Too bad. You only have this amount of time.
So yeah, let's jump into our first big question that we like to ask people is how is the campaign going? The pre-campaign at this point, like what kind of struggles have you had, or what kind of obstacles that you thought would be difficult but were surprisingly easy that came about?
I am sure that I'm probably not a normal case. Have I got a lot of info for you? The whole thing has been pretty crazy. I started the game back in 2017, and I'm not kidding you. When I looked at all these games, I've played all these games my whole life, and I thought, okay, why are these games always having a lot of the same problems, or a lot of the same, what I feel are things that are issues with certain kinds of games. And I played the big dudes on a map style games, things like Comet, Eclipse. Even some of the new Awakened Realm stuff like Lords of Hellas, and then you get into area control like Blood Rage or Ankh or even Rising Sun. So, all these games are amazing, right? But a lot of the games have similar problems, in my opinion. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna make a game. I'm gonna make a game and fix all these problems. I was so arrogant in the beginning because I thought, oh, I'll make a game in like a month. How hard is this? Of course, right? It's basically just math with graphics. I mean, that's, you know, it's a spreadsheet with art on the front of it. But that was so far from the truth. I cannot even begin to tell you. You know, I had what I thought was kind of a working, you know, model in about 3 months, and most of my friends were just like, "This is garbage. You need to go away."
Look,
True friends will tell you right out when it's crap.
Hey, but let me tell you, you know, that is the best thing, and that is one of the pieces of advice I can tell anybody who's working on any creative project. It really not just board games, but any creative project. You absolutely need the friends who are not yes men. You know, the biggest problem in this industry is you got family, you got friends, and everybody's like, "Oh, good job, man! That's a good game. All right, you should go to Kickstarter." No, exactly the problem with the industry. So my friends are, you know, and I've been friends with them many years. All of my friends I've been friends with 20 plus years, and so I have a fairly large group of people that, you know, they're programmers and engineers and software guys, and, you know, these are not just, you know, dummies that are just gonna be like, "Oh, that's a good game. You know, I played Catan last week. Yours is better." This is like, they're looking at games the way I look at games, and, you know, I'm wanting to, you know, I'm wanting to make something that actually adds to the industry, not just another Me Too title, or not just another, oh, I'm going to make a worker placement, I'm going to make a deck builder. I said I want to set out to fix problems, to introduce new ideas, and do things that actually are stand out in the industry. And of course, I think everybody has that mindset. But how often is that truly realized? You know, I mean, you guys, obviously, all the games that you've played and everything you've backed, you know, these days it really is tough, I think, to stand out. You know, how many games?
I can't wait to ask you about some of that stuff when we get to that, but keep going with your story first.
So anyway, just to you know, make a long story short on all this, which is too late. The problem I think is, you know, I have seen an unbelievable number of problems in getting to this point that I never thought that I would have dealt with. In fact, I thought from 2017 to now was supposed to be the fun part. It has been exceptionally difficult. And I mean, the laundry list of things I could go over is way longer than this podcast will ever cover. But but there's a lot of interesting things. But we can get to some of that as we go through some of your questions.
Yeah, that's something. Our first video interview we did was with John Garcia of Table Golf Association, and one of the questions Dan asked him was like, "What do you recommend to first-time designers?" He goes, "Don't."
And it's funny because that's what I got when I was asking people, what, you know, I'm an actor. What would you suggest for actors? Don't do it. If you can do something else, do that instead.
People ask about teachers. What do you think we should be teachers? No, don't.
You know, this is a sad thing. I used to be, you know, a hardcore like video game guy. Like, I didn't do board games a whole lot. You know, and I mean, I did board games growing up, but, you know, it was like around the 90s and 2000s. Of course, I'm in my late 40s. We'll call it mid-late 40s. So, but anyway, you know, I played tons of PC games before consoles really started coming of age. You know, I felt like the 360 and the PS3 really were about the first time when I was like, okay, these start, you know, seeming like they're a little better than the PC, at least when it comes to multiplayer. So I really got into that, and I kind of shifted from the PC over to consoles just because of the, you know, the ease of being able to find multiplayer and the lack of cheating and some of the things that, you know, obviously like the PC platform. I'm still a big digital gamer as well, but I mean, I really gravitate towards analog now. But the thing is, on that same topic, when I had kids, and I had wanted to be in the video game industry, I wanted to be a video game designer. I mean, doesn't everybody, you know, when you're in your teens, early 20s, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to make a video game. It was particularly in the 90s, it was kind of the Wild West in the video game industry. And I thought, oh, I can go and do this. I just, I looked into it, I read about it, I started following all the different industry insider stuff. And the more I learned, the more I was like, this is a horrible industry. There's so many things that you don't want to get involved in. And so as I got older and I met more people who had gotten burned out and bailed out of the video game industry, I had other parents who were kind of my age, whose kids were coming up into teenage years, and they were gonna forego college to go to video game school. Like a Full Sail in Florida, or one of these other big video game colleges. And parents would ask me like, "Oh, hey, all this stuff about it, and what can you recommend for my son or my daughter to go and do this?" And I'm like, exactly what you said. Do not do this at all. Run, go find a normal job. If you want to make a video game, mod something for fun, get it out of your system. If you really still want to do it after that, then be my guest, but have something to fall back on.
So that industry is just as ruthless as the entertainment industry in general.
Absolutely.
When it comes to crunch time, crunch time is the worst. You're putting in, 80 plus hours.
I'm playing The World's Smallest Violin.
I can't hear it. I'm deaf.
Remember how many times we said, take a double major, Dan? Take a double major, Dan.
But I still have a lot of good qualities, thanks to acting. Okay.
Yeah, you have one, and her name's Angie. Hi, Angie.
All right. Besides my girlfriend, I can do public speaking better than most people. Okay.
You did a good choice. You made a good choice.
Yeah. Anyway, but when it comes to like crunching and everything, for that, they work you to death, and then a lot of times they don't get paid. We're over budget.
Absolutely.
Where's the money going to go? Well, we've already spent it. You're done, but you didn't finish your job.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
Like if you did that for a contractor,
oh yeah,
my gosh, nothing will get done.
Exactly.
This is about a board game, Dan.
That's okay, because we're on the subject of Vegemite games at the moment.
Vegemite games?
That's what I
like
said.
Vegemite. Moving on.
I really don't think you like Vegemite. That stuff is rancid.
I love Vegemite. Fun fact.
So segueing into Cysmic.
Away from Australia.
One of your big.
I had a question before
Cysmic.
Okay. How did you get into board gaming? Like, I know you mentioned like you played that, but like board gaming is different than playing video games. So when did you get into like
the hobby?
This?
Yeah, so and again, I don't know how old you guys are, but like I said, I'm a little probably quite a bit older, I'm guessing. So
we're 36.
We're all 36. Okay. Well,
no,
going to be 36.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm 40. I will be 49 in May. So 48. I got into board gaming way back in the 80s. The first game that really made an impact on me was a game called Thunder Road. And Thunder Road was actually a Milton Bradley game of all things, but it is still, I think, kind of out of, it was an anachronism for the time. It really did seem more like a modern game than what, obviously Milton Bradley and all that was putting out at the time. And of course, little by little, of course, I was introduced to things like Risk and Axis and Allies as things.
Classics.
Forward. Sure, of course. And then, I can always go back to even more classics like Stratego and Battleship and all that. But, as I got a little older and, kids were for, games were for kids, I was like, now I'm going to move into video games or something. So, and I kind of did, and I started doing that. But I think it was, and this is not dissimilar from other people, I think it was Catan that pulled me back in the 90s.
Interesting.
And
usually
and this happens to everybody, and it was around that time. I don't know how that one game suddenly just became so prolific. I actually had the German edition that I got from my local store, and a bunch of my friends, one of my friends had introduced it to me at one of just a party. We played it. My favorite part was the negotiation part of trading stuff across the state.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It was the player interaction that really drove me, into it. That's what I wanted to do. That was the part that spoke to me. The mechanics and all that, there's a lot of luck in Catan, but that was kind of what drew me back. Then I still had kind of a lull for a little while. And the game that really broke me, that just got me back in the hobby. You know what? I blame it for all of my financial woes because I've spent money on board games and anything. But Eclipse came out in 2010. That completely just changed everything because it was a video game level of complexity, but it had that human interaction. You're sitting across the table now from people. And, video games are great and you can put on your headset and, yell at everybody and everybody's yelling at you and it's great. But there's something different about that tactile feel of sitting at a table with your friends and being able to just, talk to them and yell at them and right there in front of you. It's just different.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think it's funny you said what really brought you in for Catan was the whole bartering and everything and negotiations. My brothers and I, as kids, constantly played Risk, and that was how we played. Mainly, my middle brother and I were like, "All right, I tell you what, we're gonna do a defensive pact, and you don't attack me on this side, I won't attack you here, but we'll gang up here at this point and take out my oldest brother." And he'd be like, "I hate you guys." And it's funny because we still play Risk today, and that's still what goes on. And my older brother is like, I hate you guys. I'm just going to destroy you all.
I'm not.
And by the way, to really drive home the point of your question, the thing that really pushed me back in, Eclipse was kind of what drew me back into board games, and I started buying some. But speaking of you guys being in furthering education, my wife decided to get her master's degree in 2013. She and I share an office, and I'm actually in the office now, but she and I share an office. So she was working on her master's degree in education. I'm over here with my headset on, yelling at people in Call of Duty or whatever. And she's just like, "This is not going to work. You've got to do something else." And so really that was that one thing was the catalyst. And I said, "Okay, guys, look, my wife's yelling at me. I can't be doing this." And I said, "Why don't you guys just come over and we'll play something at the dining room table in the other room. She can work on her master's. I can yell at you guys in the other room now." And so let's go do that. And so that's where I had Eclipse and I had Dominion and I had, Lords of Waterdeep and some of these earlier games at the time. And that's when we just started switching. It was I would say gradual, but really it was almost like basically it went from every night playing video games to a month later, we're like talking about the next board game and when can we play it and when can everybody get together and all of that. And so from 2013 forward, I am so out of the loop on video games right now. I just, I play nothing but board games, it seems. So
there's one amazing board game that I think you should try if you have not. It's called Betrayal.
Oh gosh. Oh yes.
It's her favorite.
It's my favorite.
It's wonderful. I have it.
But not the Scooby-Doo one. Do not buy that.
I don't have a Scooby-Doo. I actually have the new edition of Betrayal, actually.
I did an unboxing of that. I may have complained about it a lot.
Really?
How did you feel about the new box versus the old?
I actually have not played the new version. I have it on my shelf. I sold my old edition because I felt.
No.
But hang on, the scenarios are so broken. They're terrible, and I thought they fixed them in the new one.
That's why I love it.
Oh God. That's awesome.
I'm sorry, this interview is over. We can't do it anymore.
No. Right.
I need to show this to you. I'm coming back. Don't buy this.
Oh, I probably wouldn't. I stay away from IP games if I can.
This is trash.
We haven't even played it. You don't know.
Yes, I have looked it over enough to hate it. The kids and I wanted to play it, and we looked at it, we opened it, and I went, "I refuse." Like, do you see this? Do you see this?
Yeah, she just doesn't like Fred for some reason. I don't get it.
She doesn't like the art design.
Oh.
So, it's
Scooby-Doo. Oh, yeah, okay.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, sure.
Look at this.
And it's all standees. There aren't any plastic minis in it.
It's trash.
No, it's for younger kids so they don't destroy things.
Yeah,
you play Betrayal right away, and then they learn all about all the fantastic horror movies tropes. Moving on, your game looks phenomenal.
Yeah. So segueing into Cysmic from video games.
First of all, don't you dare write a segue. I will trip you on that thing.
I
All right,
did
so
a segue.
you said a lot of your inspiration came from RTS games like Command and Conquer and Supreme
Absolutely.
Commander, things like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So how closely does this game feel to an RTS, or is it more inspirational? Because like as gamers, we haven't really seen an RTS fully realized. So I feel like that's your next challenge after this comes out.
No pressure.
Well, I will tell you, so it's hard for me to judge it because, of course, I can't separate the two. For
True,
me,
yeah.
Cysmic is an RTS in a board game form. Now, if I was to sell it that way, I mean, I can certainly tell people my inspiration is all these old RTS games that I absolutely love. But does it play like an RTS? It does, in my opinion. Now, I know that other people, some people agree, some people don't. It is very much action efficiency. It is a race because everybody has the same objective, and everybody's trying to achieve that objective in whatever form they can. But there is so many RTS elements there. And one of the big things that you can draw comparisons between is the different unit types. And each unit type is geared towards its task. That's also how I teach the game, is that you've got 6 different units in the game. You've got miners, and miners gather crystal ore. Okay, so that's the currency, the only currency in the game. Then you've got soldiers. Well, guess what soldiers do? They fight. They're the ones that start fights. You've got speakers, and the speaker model actually has a flag next to her on the model. She puts out flags on buildings, and flags on buildings are control points for influence. She is actually your human resources or your marketing department. She is literally zooming out.
HR and PR. I like it.
Yes, actually she does. Yes, and so she's going out across this planet, and she's getting colonists to come and work for you to help you build your colony ship to get off the planet. So, and then beyond that, you've got a few other units. You've got your power mech, which is basically just a bigger, badder version of the soldier, and you've got your harvester, which is just a bigger, badder version of the miner. So beyond that, your colony ship is your last unit. So your colony ship kind of serves as your base. I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to see the 4th designer diary that I posted on BGG on Friday on the Seismic.
Sure, I've looked it over.
Maybe so, but I go in and I talk a little bit about another reference to Command and Conquer, where you actually had the mobile construction vehicle. Which
I did see that. Yep, I did see that.
So the MCV was, that was
the MCV.
yeah, of course. And so in Seismic, your base is basically your mobile construction vehicle, because that's where everything happens. Everything spawns out of that roving platform, and it moves around the planet. And it is so massive that every time it moves, it ripples across the whole planet and then collapses the hex that it moves from. So it's just a huge, massive thing. So yeah,
awesome.
I like this. I really, really want to play this now, because we were huge into things like Red Alert, Red Alert 2.
Red Alert's our favorite.
yes, I love it
too.
And this, man, I kind of want to boot that up.
And Tim Curry and Red Alert 3.
No, of course, of course. I so wanted to call the crystal ore in the game Tiberium. I just couldn't help myself. And in fact, early on, I even called it that just for fun. Before I just gave it a generic term. So
yep. At what point did you come up with the idea of because like your big thing is like to make things feel epic? And so in order to do that, you have these action cards that let you, like, if you play infantry, like all infantry move, right?
Yes.
So how did that come about? Like where's the inspiration for that?
So one of the biggest problems I have, and of course this is what I was referring to earlier when I said all these other games have what I call problems. They're not problems. Clearly these are award-winning games. What do I know?
Right.
So the thing is that I really get frustrated about, and part of board gaming is frustration, right? It's always about lack of things you can do, or scarcity of resources. I mean, that's the whole point, of generally of board games, is to try to find all this stuff you need. But what I wanted, and of course this kind of is a reflection of Twilight Imperium, it's a reflection of Eclipse, Kemet, a number of these games. are, basically they're engine builders in disguise. And so you're building this huge armada or this empire, and then you're going to do, this big epic thing. But by the time you get all of your toys, the game ends. People talk about this all the time. So, particularly in something like Twilight Imperium, you're working towards your what do they call it? It's not a Death Star. We just call it Death Star, but it's something Sun. Anyway,
I like Death Star. We'll stick with Death Star.
Yeah, when you get your little Death Star in Twilight Imperium, almost always it's just going to sit in a hex and it never gets to be put to use. And it's just so frustrating because I'm like, I finally got all my toys, and it's like, and then the game's in, and I'm like, well, I didn't get to do anything with my toys. So
yeah.
So the original inspiration for Cysmic kind of came from the idea of, instead of an engine builder, it's an engine destroyer. So what you do is, what you get from the very beginning is, you start off and you've got anywhere from 10 to 15 units on the board right out of the gate. And so, not to mention, of course, your massive base that's also your colony ship tower. From there, and the planet is completely intact at the very beginning of the game. So as you're playing, and the longer the game plays, the more the planet actually starts falling apart. And as you're recruiting units, you're losing units because people are stealing them. They're taking them hostage, because that's actually how you get that's actually how you get the blueprints for the colony ship. So you have to be the first to build your colony ship. So I say there's only one currency in the game, which is the crystal ore in the game. But the second kind of discrete currency is other people's units. So when you capture other people's units in a combat, you trade them back as a hostage negotiation to get the information on how to build the module they know how to build. So that's the real
Survive.
It does. It does.
We're all looking at it like it's Survive.
Let me tell you what's crazy. I had never heard of Survive up until about 6 months ago. I've been working this game for
it's the
years.
best.
I bought it because somebody had said, "Oh my God, your game is like, it feels like Survive, but like this epic version." And I'm like, "What's Survive?" And they're like, "Survive Escape from Atlantis.
It's
You need to play
a
this."
game that destroys friendships, but in a good way.
Yes.
We have to have it on display, right?
No, because the box always opens up when I put it up on
Oh,
display.
no, it's right here. We're
Yeah, you are on top.
You're
of
on top of
Survive.
it. Okay.
I only agree.
It's board games everywhere, all the way down.
So I bought it about 6 months ago, and I played it, and I was like, "Where has this game been my whole life?" So if you know my love for Survive now, after just discovering it, Survive is what I would call a baby version of Cysmic. Cysmic is a much bigger version of Survive.
I like this.
I love
like
Survive
this.
so much.
So I'm just thinking. I'm reading what I got to read just last night. I actually did my research for once. I know. Oh my gosh.
It's a Lenten miracle.
Like I was really excited, especially when PJ told me about it. He's like, "Yeah, it's like an RTS come to life." I was like, "All right, I'm intrigued." And he showed, he gave me the link, and I'm reading some things. Like, okay, I like this. And then hearing you talk about it, I'm just going, "Man, I'm gonna kick your ass."
From the guy who lost horribly and survived, just last week? When did we
Just last week.
Last week.
I was horrible, but I made sure he was going down with me.
Yep.
He only got one person on an island.
Nice.
I got two. And Angie and Shanna killed the rest of our people. So
yeah, we did.
That is awesome.
It was Angie's first time.
It was
playing
Angie's first
Survive.
time.
The worst part is, there may have been some drinking involved on one half of the table, but not for you, and you still lost.
I still lost.
It's the joy about Survive.
Oh, okay.
is.
I will say I had three of my highest numbered people, which I didn't know until afterwards, right there.
Oh no.
And then he moved
the
sea
Kraken.
the sea serpent and killed everybody. I was like,
They're right there at the dock, ready to be put on the island.
So happy.
I got screwed, man.
So your game is like Survive, but on a different planet and on
Yes.
steroids.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Let's go.
It's gonna be. I'm.
Your
I'm excited
artwork's
for this.
phenomenal. I thought it was
Yeah,
really
the
cool.
art-
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that is one of the things, by the way. The artwork I had done by a wonderful guy in Poland named Cysmic. He is fantastic. I'm very pleased with him. But what might be crazy to you guys, depending on how many other designers you talk to out there, but everything else in the game, including the prototypes, the graphic design, even the concept for the minis, I actually do 3D modeling as well. The rest of the game is all me. I'm the only thing I didn't do.
That's great.
That's
is
cool.
the art. Yeah. So
I need to learn that.
yeah.
There's a lot of things with
The
board
designer
games.
diaries of you trying to figure out how to make like mini proxies and find mini proxies.
oh, it's terrible. Yes, it was terrible.
So what do you do in real life? Like, what is your actual job?
Oh my gosh. So I work at a robotics company.
Okay,
And,
okay.
that explains everything, right?
Yeah,
But-
STEM,
Yep.
yeah, STEM. I got
Okay.
this. Yeah.
So I work at a robotics company, but not what you think. I have programmed robots, but that's not my forte. I'm not a syntax guy. I'm much more of a visual person. So I do all of our marketing. I do all of our PR. I do some of our HR. I do all of our filming of robots. I do all of our audio stuff. I do narration. I run our YouTube channel,
Cool.
and then I do. And I actually handled my entire IT department for all of our family of companies. So I've got a couple of people. So yeah, it's a little left brain and right brain. I do all the creative stuff and the technical stuff. So, but before that, I actually worked at an ad agency. So I'm proficient in all of the Adobe products.
Great.
I can do After Effects. I used to be a YouTuber for a long time, so I can do all my own video editing, all my own motion graphics. I've got, of course, I've done all my own graphic design in the game, and then I do 3D modeling in 3D Studio Max. And I do that some for my main day job, but I also did it as a hobby. So a little bit of everything, but I have no college degree. So everything I've done, I have taught myself, and my wife is very mad at me about that because
Yeah.
she's got a master's
I have
degree.
many college degrees.
Well, see, that's great. See, you have a big leg up from a lot of the people that we've talked to.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they're still trying to figure out ways to do PR and get themselves out there.
Yeah, marketing
Yeah,
has been a big hurdle
John
for a lot of people.
Garcia has
Yeah.
been like the
Absolutely.
best because he's a marketer by
Yeah, that's what
trade.
John
That's what he
does.
does. So he
Now,
he
let me
ends up
tell
like
you,
I have a leg up.
Even me having knowledge of marketing and particularly online stuff, the one thing that I actually, because my company does business to business, we don't do business to consumer. So one of the things that I was very weak on was the social media style of marketing. I've gotten to a point to where, and I think this partly comes with age, and partly comes from the last few years of COVID and everything else, but I really don't do a whole lot of social media anymore. I just don't,
Right.
I'm just not on a whole lot. So I did end up reaching out to a wonderful group of people that I have been working with now for almost a year to get the game to market, and that is Other Stuff Games. Those guys are a marketing and consultancy firm for Kickstarters. So I will absolutely bow down to them and say they are phenomenal. Anybody who is truly serious, that's the people to talk to. And I know there's a lot of different people out there, but when it comes specifically to board games, RPG stuff, or anything within geekdom, the geekdom world, if you're going to Kickstarter, those are the kind of people, definitely, if not the specific people you should talk to.
Crazy.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I was told by, I think it was John, that Facebook ads get like a tiny fraction of people.
Yeah.
But
Right.
he got me and you got me. So,
Well, there you go.
It's the fraction that counts.
Yeah.
so I'm the weird minority that gets hit by these ads. And I'm like,
Yes.
"Yeah, I want this."
Now.
we have extremely focused ads, and we are we have an extremely narrow vision of who we're targeting. So if it found you, you are my target audience. I can assure you. We are not scattershotting like a shotgun. We are extremely laser focused in on
That's
board
what was
gamers.
on your back.
So you're
And,
special.
So it
I
works.
knew you
It
were
really works.
special.
I'm so special.
You are.
I feel
It's really
seen.
working.
First time. See, but not her. Yes, thank you, Angie.
Somebody loves
Thanks a lot, Mixer. So,
Right.
See, but not her. There it is.
Do you have an estimated price tag for this game yet? Because it looks like a beast for a first first time
Yes.
designing. Like, this looks like a
Yeah.
beast of a game.
Everybody I've shown this game to who knows this is my first Kickstarter is just like, what is wrong with you? Why did you not make a card game? You know, this is ridiculous.
That's okay. I see what you're doing. You're aiming for the stars.
Star.
And you need to leave.
Exactly.
I guess I have to leave now.
You can see yourself out. So, so the thing is right now we are playing around with prices that I actually think might shock you for what you'd get. We are. This is actually one of the hurdles, by the way. Is I was under the impression before I really got deep into this, I was under the impression there was probably 5 companies in the world that made board games in China. That's not true at all. There is like 100.
Wow.
One of the things I've learned just from my main day job and being in business is, you know, the rule of thumb is always go get 3 quotes, right? Whenever you're going to go buy something, go get 3 quotes. I have existing right now, I have 14 quotes. So the problem is this industry is so like crazy because everybody quotes based on what they are very familiar with. So you know, a plastics company will give me a great price on plastics and then they're horrible on paper, and vice versa. So one of the things that I'm struggling with right now, and we're only about 6 or 7 weeks away from Kickstarter, maybe less if I can get it, but I actually don't have an exact price yet. All I can tell you is that we are probably going to break the game into a 4-player version and a 5 to 6 player expansion, because what I want to do is I want to make sure, and a lot of people don't care about the 5 and 6 player, you know, they're only going to ever play 4 or less. And so one of the things that we decided to do was try to make sure that it was affordable for people who want this big epic experience and this crown jewel of their collection when it comes to quality of components and all that. You know, the table presence is just nuts. And of course, I mean, I love games like that. I go all in on these crazy Kickstarters. I'm a backer I've backed over 230 Kickstarters myself. So I get it. And I know what people want. I know what people don't like. I know where Kickstarters have fallen on their face. Even big companies have fallen on their face in certain ways. So one of my things that I want to make sure, and I know everybody again always says this, sounds like a broken record, I want to create the best game out, you know, that I can ever create. And many people go bankrupt doing that. I have to make sure that it makes sense. I have a day job. This is not my, you know, my bread and butter. I don't have to feed a family off of this game. So the good news is I have some room, you know, some room to play to make sure that I can at least pay for my time, pay for the manufacturing, pay for everything that I've invested, which is not a small sum. But to get rich off of it, I think is delusional. And I think that's right. I think that's one of the biggest problems. I am trying to make sure that the 4-player, to answer your question, the 4-player is sub $200. And for that, for what you're getting, you're going to end up with so many really large minis. And this is the other problem. You'll see these Kickstarters, and I have plenty of them on my shelf. These Kickstarters come out and they're like, oh, 200 minis, and it's like $120. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. How can they afford that? And I'll get the game in, and the mini is like, you know, it's like,
they're not minis, they're micros.
Right. Yeah. So the colony ship is almost 7 inches tall. And every one of the smallest miniatures in my game are 32 millimeter. The medium size, and that's, you know, I mean, that's like D&D.
That's sizable.
Yeah. Those are the smallest ones. And then the vehicles are anywhere from 70 to 85 millimeter for the harvesters and the power mechs. And then everything else in the game is almost none of it's cardboard. Almost everything is plastic. So the amount, even the buildings, you know, all the habitat buildings and the flags and the I'm actually putting in extra dice because I know what it feels like to be playing a game and there's one die that everybody needs in combat or something, and it's like, oh, where's the one die I need? Hey, hand me the die. No, I'm gonna put at least 2 sets of dice so that when there's a fight, one person grabs their dice, the other person grabs the other dice, and it's not, oh, hey, I just rolled, okay, here it's your turn to roll. I'm not going to do that. I want to make sure that the player experience is as good as I can make it within reason and not go bankrupt.
Right.
So speaking of within reason and going bankrupt, is this going to be a dual layer board where the tiles go in, or
all dual layer? Yes.
I thought I saw that.
The game board itself is actually a recessed board in the middle where all the hexes go. And that was by design from day one. I've played plenty of games where there's a bunch of hexes. Survive is one of them. And you're moving things around, and you got to pick up this hex inside the thing, and then suddenly the hexes are off. And of course, my OCD just like goes, I gotta put them back. I gotta align the edges. Oh God! And it's
we're not alone. Yes.
Thank you for seeing me. So, but the thing is the main game board is recessed. The main player boards are all recessed. Very heavy duty chipboard. I'm not selling for less than 2.5 millimeter, which is super, super thick, chunky. Everything should feel very high quality. And that's absolutely one of the things I will not settle for less.
And for the price that you're shooting for, that high quality will make a lot. I mean,
does it come with the launch button?
It's gonna make sound.
That's all I care about.
So, to be fair, I'm really trying. I've talked to a couple manufacturers, and they are saying that they can do that for me. I've actually created the whole launch button. I designed the whole thing in 3D. It is a fully pressable button right now, and then you twist it about 20 degrees, and it pops back up into its original position. So when you press it, I am hoping that I can actually have a little sound effect in there, and some of them have promised me that it's not a problem. So it is something I really want. Now, we are working on a retail version, and the retail version would be very inexpensive. No miniatures, all standees. That one will probably be in the $75 to $80 range. Again, we're guessing right now.
Right.
But that launch button will be, unfortunately, just a wonderful 2D graphic of a launch button. So
you gotta pack the $200 one. I need the launch button.
Yeah, PJ, come on.
I mean,
I will pitch in.
I
will pitch in if you need. I like this. And yeah, like I was saying, that price, if you're getting really good quality, board, good quality minis out there, the people that are really into this, the hardcore, that's just going to be a bigger selling point.
Yeah,
I know that's the one thing that we talk about a lot is what's the quality? How does it feel?
That's the first section of our reviews. Is components.
Like, how does it feel in your hands? I don't think we've actually had a game yet where we both went,
Aliens.
That's okay.
We're releasing that
yet to
review
come out.
tonight. Yeah.
That is the only one. I can't believe we're going to say this. It's our first review where we actually went,
Which game?
Alien: A Glorious Day in the Core.
Oh, I have it. I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's actually right there. Another Glorious Day in the Core. Yeah.
I'm a huge Aliens fan.
Yeah, me too.
Specifically, I'm that's one of my top 5 movies of all time. I'm a huge Star Wars guy, but I have such a love for particularly the James Cameron Aliens version. I love the extended cut. I was just watching clips of it the other night. I always to it.
I was at work the other night. I was on second shift, and around like 8:00, I don't have anybody in the hotel. Cool. Yeah. Popped up YouTube, and I was watching the 3-hour making of. I was
I love that. It's amazing. Love that video.
I love this movie.
Nemesis is one of my favorite games because of that reason. And Nemesis has problems, okay? There's no doubt that Nemesis is not a perfect game. However, the theme is exactly what I wanted. The gameplay style is what I wanted. And I bought Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Core. I bought it because I was like, well, it's Aliens. I got to buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
I sat and I opened that box and I sat and I glued those stupid little aliens together. And I was like, okay, this is going to be great. And the game is fine. It's just not the really it is like you say, the components are not what they should have been. And
Right.
it's a cheap game, and I'm sure they paid a ton of money to have that IP right and everything.
Oh
But
yeah.
God dang it, I would have been one of the guys paying $300-$400 for a Nemesis version of another Glorious Day in the Core.
That was something
Yeah,
you spent a lot of time gluing all the little pieces together, right? And
Yeah.
it kept falling
just,
apart.
Yeah, just cursing at
Oh.
this stupid.
Oh.
And I wanted to help, but I was like, if I walk over here, he's probably gonna stab me with the glue gun or
Oh.
something.
What's
I
really
was
funny was I was
so
watching
frustrated.
how to play. I was watching how to play because after we played it for our review, the one thing we said was like,
We don't know
did
if we played
did
it
we play
right.
it right? 'Cause we
Right,
heard
I feel
other
the same way.
reviews- Yeah, we heard other reviews where the one guy that he watched said, it doesn't feel like an alien game. It doesn't,
Right.
it doesn't feel like this. And I was like, no. After we started playing it and thought we knew what we were doing, it felt very much like an alien game. It felt very much like you were playing the first half of the film.
Sure.
But I also saw a guy who was doing it that he neglected to put the tails on because he's like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Mhm.
This is too ridiculous. I was like,
It's terrible.
you should
Yeah.
have done that. No tails.
Can't not have the tails though. Like, sorry.
Like
Well,
honestly,
because I actually took my Nemesis figures and moved.
A lot of
smart.
people did that. Or there's another Aliens game that has
Yep.
like not as detailed minis, but better minis,
Better
so
minis,
they
yeah.
substituted those into the game.
maybe next time we should just print our own
Yeah,
after we
right?
get your 3D
Seriously.
printer back up and
Yeah.
my 3D printer back up. Just print our
Seriously,
own
yeah.
aliens
Yeah.
out.
Back to your game though.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
Back to
I
you.
want to say that like the cost of yours isn't probably. I wouldn't bat an eye at that
No.
because PJ's like, can I get
That's
Frosthaven?
permission.
That's perfect. High five. Boom.
Right.
When he wanted Frosthaven, I was like, how much does it cost? You get one for your friend too. Like I didn't care. I was like, because I see how happy you are. Like
Frosthaven
this
for
Gloomhaven's worth it.
Dude, getting Frosthaven when we did though, because we only paid $99 for it Kickstarter,
Yup.
and retail price is $250 now.
Yes. Holy
Ooh,
cow.
man,
Yeah,
got
and
lucky.
I'm
That's
still
why I said go ahead and get one for your friend Brian because like I was like, with the
Yeah.
cost of it, go ahead.
we still need to
Absolutely.
continue this game.
I
so we can do it.
approve this because that way he doesn't do drugs. This is like better.
Yeah,
It
You know, it
helps
is
the whole
so
family
funny.
too.
some people
I
do Girl
drag
Scout
all of
cookies.
Some people do Girl Scout. Hey.
I drag all of my friends. I'm the one that hosts game night. I've got an actual
Yep.
I built an entire there you go. So I actually had a remodel done to a section of my house and made an entire game room out of it. And I have like a wormwood gaming table and all this. And I threw all this
dang,
stuff in
wormwood.
there. So I've got I've got 900 games in my collection right now on just calyxes that just span, hallways and rooms and everything. So I get everybody to come over, and one of the funny things is everybody shows up, and some of the game widows who are at home who don't really like to play games, they want to hang out. They're like, "This is the best thing ever because I don't have to worry about my husband. He's with Jason. Jason's a total
Yep.
geek. Not doing anything bad." So, and of course, we have plenty of the girls that want to come and join and get in, and I'll tell you too. Some of the women in our game group are the most aggressive players I have ever seen. I don't know what it is. The guys are all like,
As
betas,
Angie
and they're
laughs
like,
in the
"Oh,
corner.
in fact, just as a side note, there is my wife's best friend named Jennifer. She is the current Seismic ruling champion. She has played the game. She has played the game something like 30 times. She has won like 26 of those 30 times. And the game is extremely aggressive, and she plans her turns and she does all this. Whenever I sit down to play her, there's already just this mind, like this whole like intimidation factor, and she's just all like just smiling at everybody at the table, and I'm just like, you're gonna murder us all.
So speaking of Shanna here, so she's the type of gamer who she will not play Scythe because she's intimidated by the sight of it.
Oh my gosh, that's a
So
simple
how would you? So
Come
how
on.
would you sell your game to someone like Shanna?
It's not the size that it's.
She's told that to a lot of people.
But-
Fantastic.
No.
Oh,
No, I have said this many times on our podcast. I don't like a game where it takes 5 years to set up. That drives me bonkers. Like
Yes.
Survive. I will set it up because like it's just one board. There you
Yep.
go. But when I see him like spending 25 years putting all this stuff out, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go have a cuppa. I'm gonna go out and like get my hair did. I'm gonna go get a new pair of shoes. When I come back in 3 hours, I guess we
That's
can
right.
play. Like that is what bothers me. And that's why I had Dan come over. They can play.
I'll set it up too. I don't care.
But he's already sold me on this one. I will play this one because it's Survive on steroids.
Yeah.
If I know that I get to cream Dan, like I'm in. Right, Angie? See,
Awesome.
yeah, Angie agrees.
So one of the things about Seismic, I'm not going to lie, this is one of the problems of any big game, and it's really not unique to Seismic by any means. Seismic setup is no joke. There's time, there's time that you have to set aside to do it. I will easily say the setup, without exaggeration, is probably about 20 minutes. If you're doing it by yourself, obviously, as the saying goes,
that's doable for us.
As the saying goes, many hands make for light work, right? So the whole point is that if you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 people who are going to sit down and play this game, clearly the setup is very quick. Okay, it'll happen much sooner. You can actually have the game set up in about 10 minutes with 6 people or 5 people even. So not really a problem. But my game is, there's 127 hexes, okay, that have to be placed in that main board. You've got all of your miniatures. You've got your 3 pieces of your main board and then a faction board to choose. The good news is my setup, unlike many other games out there, is more brute force. It's just grab this deck, shuffle it, set it on the table. Grab these tokens, pour them out into a pile on the table. It's not, okay, take this deck and 3 of these cards from here and 6 tokens, turn these tokens over and then take these 6 cards, shuffle these into the third bottom of this deck and then set these. It's none of that, okay?
Oh, thank God.
It's not, yeah. And let me tell you, I think that setup, even if it's less time, I find those kind of games horrible to set up because I'm like, why is it like this? The biggest setup of Seismic literally is putting the 127 hexes in the main board. And again, this is a 5 to 7 minute, task by a single person. But setting up your boards, putting your little cube out and taking your 10 cards and tossing them on there, really it's also setting your minis out. Each person has 27 minis, I think now. 27 different miniatures. You got to pour them out of the bag or get them out of your little vacuum thing. But each person is responsible for that. And my goal, have you guys seen Foundations of Rome by Arcane Wonders?
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, but you haven't seen. Have you ever seen an unboxing of it? Have you seen the minis in it? The buildings are gorgeous, but if not, no big deal. So
it's like Baron Park, by the way, but with like everything is a 3D mini.
Yes,
it's like $300 Baron Park is what the thing is.
Basically, yes, basically.
And see, I'll play Baron Park if you set it up.
So, anyways,
again, I will play it if you set it up for me.
In the oh my gosh, what the heck? Foundations of Rome. In Foundations of Rome, each player gets their entire own vacuum formed tray with all of their miniatures in it. And you just pull it out and you set it in front of the player and you're done. And you take the clear plastic lid off. That is my hope for Seismic's setup is, you put the board out, put the hexes out, and then here's your stuff, Mr. Player number 1. Here's your stuff, Mr. Player number 2. So I am trying to make sure the setup is as easy as possible.
Going back to Eclipse, like that's the same route they took with second edition.
Just the second edition
is tray.
Yes, it's so wonderful.
Play that game too.
And knowing you,
we'll have that one.
Even if it didn't come like that, knowing you, you'd make it happen.
I would print one. Yeah.
He has a thing about printing boxes.
I do.
Yeah. Star Wars Rebellion's next, where you can download like a cabinet with drawers in it for all your units in Rebellion. Yeah. You get a cabinet for Imperial and a cabinet for the Rebels. So that's my next job that I'm printing.
You take one half, I'll take the other.
Right? Yeah.
Awesome. I love Rebellion.
I'm immensely tired just listening to that.
So going back, so plans are for an insert, but are you like, is that still in the works or is that like a go?
Doggy.
Sorry.
Hi, honey. Hi. What's your name?
That's River.
Hi, River. Oh my goodness.
He came to visit.
Who
We are working on inserts right now.
This is like when we have our cats, like on we do Zoom.
Yeah,
like
when we're
as
teachers, like it's all here's my cat.
Here's
yes,
my cat. Here's my dog. Here's here's my hamster. Oh my goodness! How can you not pet that face?
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
No, don't you ever apologize for dogs and cats? You kidding?
So we are working on the insert. I have not chosen a manufacturer yet, but when I choose the manufacturer, that's going to be the goal is to try to figure out the best possible box and setup scenario that I can.
I heard nothing because I'm watching River fall asleep, but he heard it. It's okay.
Yes,
exactly.
I was paying attention.
Don't leave, River.
Oh,
Yay! Oh, Angie, come look at this dog. Angie.
come here, River.
Look, River. Oh, I know, right? Angie refuses to get on screen, but we always love the comments in the background.
Yep. So even though this one is not in the works, I need to know about your first design where it looked like King of the Hill.
Oh, yes.
Cardboard boxes and all that. I need to hear about this game.
I had such a, I had such a vivid imagination for my first design, and now I know so much better. But I kept telling myself when I first started designing a game, I said, why is it that nobody's really using verticality? Everything on a board game is just two-dimensional. It's just flat. Why are we not doing things up? Well, there's a reason for that, because you can't see across the table, and there's a variety of other problems. But the original design, just in a nutshell, the original design was called Ascension. The theme made no sense whatsoever, but I'll explain it anyway, because I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking kind of an Indiana Jones kind of idea. The idea was going to be these were traps. There were 9 traps, and so you were trying to ascend to be the god, of whatever the civilization or whatever it was. And you were fighting among all these other gods. And so the idea is you were fighting and you had no idea when the next platform would drop. And these were traps that would be triggered in various events. And so you would drop, and any units that were not in the if you were on the outer ring, you would be fighting a lot on the inner areas, but on the outer ring, you would be safe. So when you drop the next
pictures of your game.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, Lord.
So when you would drop the next section, the units would actually be stuck inside there, and only certain kinds of units could actually elevate to the next level. They would tunnel from where they currently are on the bottom level into the next level, and they would continue fighting. And so basically throughout the game, it was kind of an engine destroyer kind of idea. And the idea would be each level would drop and it would get taller and taller and taller, but the board was getting smaller. So it was almost like a Fortnite, a Warzone, Apex Legends style idea where the map is just getting smaller. But in this case, instead of me breaking the map away, it was these bizarre tower ideas.
Yeah.
I love the idea. My wife humored me. Some friends came over and they humored me, and they were like, "This is stupid."
Like, out loud, it is a really cool idea. And seeing the board, it's like that look like it's intriguing. It is great presence,
It sounds
I
like
have the board still.
it really sounds like you're creating Jenga.
It is, yes.
You're building the tower.
Yes, it really was. It was basically Jenga. Yes, Jenga was
this feeling of 3D chess for a little bit there. I'm beating him on 3 levels.
I like that though. I mean, it's interesting. It's just a shame that you couldn't get it to actually work.
Here's what's really crazy. This again, this is not a boast by any means. This is just a fact, really. It's not a boast. I have probably thrown away now, because I'm my own worst critic. I have thrown away probably more mechanics than many games I've played even have. and I don't think that's unique to me. I think that's pretty common in design and games.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
you go,
in any design, you're going to have that kind
of
of thing.
course, but that was just one design. I have probably, God, I have probably 20 different combat mechanics that I've designed, played with, and liked, and then just decided it wasn't right for Cysmic. And I mean, I've got all this stuff. I've got a Google Drive. I'm a digital pack rat, so I literally keep everything. I actually call my game right now. I call it like software. It's like my current version is beta. It's beta 8.2.89, and that all actually means something. And so I have literally every single player board from day one, every design all the way forward. I have all of the different approaches, all the different card layouts, everything. Every single thing that I've done is all saved on this Google Drive. That Google Drive is 430 gigs. So just that one folder for Cysmic. And I've got other games that I've kind of worked on as well in there. It's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a lot of data.
Yes, it's hard to filter through. It really is. Even I have to like search for things and go, where did I put that?
I have lots of grad school stuff, but I don't know how many gigs it is. My stuff's boring though.
Yeah.
Jeez, even my college stuff only took up maybe like 5 if I was lucky.
It's reacting the whole time.
Wow.
Yes.
Acting.
In terms of Kickstarter, are you planning on any exclusives or things that will be exclusive, but then you could purchase later, or like how?
The launch button.
The launch button.
So we have a variety of stretch goals and a variety of things that we're kind of talking about. A lot of this is still a bit flexible at the moment. We, clearly the launch button, being able to be pressed with sound and all that, we're really hoping to have that. That would obviously be a Kickstarter exclusive. That's not something that you could, ever produce retail.
Yeah.
There's a variety of things. The mountains, the 3D mountains are one part of it that I really, really, really want in there. And believe it or not, for me, that's not just bling in the game. I mean, sure, does it look nice? Is it cool? Yes. I mean, I love it. But it really is another visual reminder that people cannot move units onto those X's. So if it's just a graphic of a mountain, people might count that as a move or something across the board. And I'm like, I want to make sure that people understand not only is this an actual mechanical obstacle in the game, but it's a physical one on the board, because everything in the game is a physical representation, and it drives home the point of how that unit functions or how it operates and why it's designed that way. Also, one of the things, having said that, is there's these combat markers, and you may have seen them in some of the graphics. There's a little, it's almost like my daughter kind of calls it like my wand. It's like this little red wand, and but it's a combat marker, and it only sticks into soldiers and power mechs. So there's a hole in the back of those miniatures, and it's very subtle. You don't hardly see it unless you go to place it in there. That is to remind players that you can't start a fight with any other unit type. So when you start a fight, you move the unit in, and you have to immediately place a combat marker in there. If there's no hole in that unit, well, you've made a mistake. You've read rules wrong, or you're doing something you can't do. So everything in the game is like that. So having said that, the mountains, I am trying to do the water hexes. The lakes are kind of the same thing. You can't move over them or through them. So I want to create like these cool, clear water hexes that are about that tall that would actually sit on top of the chipboard. There's a few other odds and ends, and to be honest, the game that you see in a lot of the pictures is the exclusive. That is a game that is not going to be retail, obviously, after the fact. I will probably have some copies maybe to sell after the Kickstarter through either a web store or something like that. But the exclusive part of it most likely will be, this is a Kickstarter exclusive game. The retail version, if there's enough interest from distributors and enough interest through the actual campaign, then that will be an option that people can buy. And then hopefully, if there's a lot of good feedback about the retail version, because it'll play exactly the same, But if there's good feedback and people really like it, and there's enough demand for for a reprint or something of the larger game, then that would be my best hope. So, but lots of things. Keep your eyes out on the campaign. We do have a long list. I'll get into all that at some point, but even now, it's so nebulous. I can't hardly ever can't even answer it yet.
Yeah.
The launch button is non-negotiable.
I agree.
I think she's telling you something, PJ. I think we have to get this version of the game.
Oh, sucks. Oh no.
Oh no, whatever we're going to do.
Right.
So if I give you my money now, can I get a prototype?
Right.
The launch button. It's
With
imperative.
the launch button. That's right.
I would say
Oh,
have him give us the elevator pitch. What would he say to
Oh,
get
right.
someone? That's my favorite
Well,
thing.
that was one thing that I started to ask about you, like or like obviously you said you will play it, but for people who are apprehensive of playing this, like, so how would you sell it to someone who is not used to it, or would you say this is not for those kind of people?
Well, it's interesting. So, Shanna, you said something earlier about a game being too, like you look at it and you just go, oh, I don't have the energy or the brain power to sit
I
down.
don't like meticulous things. That's my problem.
Exactly. So let me give you the same pitch that I give so many people, particularly at conventions, because one of my big problems with the game, of course, is it looks overwhelming, and I understand that. I mean, it looks like there's no way that anybody's going to sit down and want to learn to play this. I can tell you that I taught a group of teachers that had only ever played Uno. No exaggeration. No exaggeration. I taught a group of teachers, 5 players in the game. They had only ever played Uno. By the 3rd turn, they were cutthroat, going in. They understood the game. They knew the goal. They knew what they were doing. And I gave basically a 15-minute rules teach, and they were off to the races. So I've been asking people at the last few cons that I've been at, I've been asking, what would you rate the complexity weight for Cysmic after having played it? And so the complexity rating has been falling anywhere from 3 to 3.5, most of the time actually arrowing closer to 3.
Out of 5.
So out of 5, that's right.
Okay.
I'm talking about
I'll
the BGG scale. Yeah. So, when you look at games like Scythe, for example, it's in that same range. The thing is, what I've done with the game, I hate rule book flippers. And what I mean by that is a game where, you've read the rule book, you sit down, you start learning the game, and then it's like, okay, you can move this guy. Well, how many does he move? Okay, well, hold on, let me grab the rule book.
none of that like us last week.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
So, personally, I think that's bad design. I think that everything should be accessible by the player. The second thing is my game has such a huge table presence and it's such a table hog that I didn't want to do player aids on top of it. So what I did is I put the rule book in front of you. Every pertinent piece of information to play the game is either on the card or on the player board. There is literally nothing. Once you know how to play the game, there is literally no piece of data that you should ever need to go back to the actual rule book for. So the reason that is so important is because a game that has so many different units, and each unit has a different amount of attributes. Each faction, there's 18 different factions in the game, and they all have 3 or 4 different abilities. There are all kinds of abilities on the player board. Everything is spelled out. I despise games, and I know why they do it, but I despise games that rely on nothing but this entire iconography language. And you've got, it's like learning a whole new set of hieroglyphics every time you sit down to play a game. And, if it's good, then they make sense within context of that game universe, and you're okay. You can get through it. But when they're bad, the game is unplayable, and it's just a disaster. So everything in my game is written out in plain English in the most succinct way that you possibly can. And that sucks for translations. And I know that going in, if I translate the game to German or Italian or French or Mandarin or Spanish, it's going to be a nightmare to do it, but that's not my target audience right now. And I'm hoping that there's enough interest internationally that I can do that. But I wanted to make sure that the target audience of English speakers that are mostly the gaming market right now. I'm hoping, because English is so universal on so many games across the world. I never want to force English on our international audience members. It's just the problem is trying to do manufacturing is so hard for multiple particularly for a game of this size. Yeah. But I am planning on doing the manual in the rule book in PDF form in various languages if I can. But there is so much content on the cards, and it literally tells you what to do. So there's nothing that you ever have questions of while you're playing the game. So the sales pitch of like, why should you play it, or how hard is it to play, or whatever, I can teach the game in a single turn. Everybody has the same 10 cards, and it's 10 action cards, and there's 6 unit cards. You've already seen the units. I've talked about the units. And then you have 4 tactic cards, and the tactic cards are recruit, put new units out on the board, upgrade, make small units into big units, battle. So battle is fight all your battles on the board all at once. And then the last one's called negotiate. And negotiate is kind of a catch-all for a variety of different things, mostly hostage negotiation. So, but that's it.
Can I please have that person back?
We do not negotiate with terrorists, okay? No, and that's really great. See, that actually answers one of the questions that I was going to have was there a quick reference, like a quick reference guide? But if everything's spelled out there on the board, that's great. And one of our other interviews, we talked to a couple from, was it Hungary, right?
Yeah.
And they were saying that where they are, they have a big industry where the big thing there is taking all of these board games from other countries and translating them. And that's what
it just has to be a big name.
Yeah, it just has to be a big name. But like they're getting out there so they can get all of these other games out to the rest of the world, which if your game catches on, like we really hope you do, that's an avenue that you can take almost immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been approached by 3 different language translation entities right now, and we're kind of talking about what to do, because the minimum order quantity for one plate change, meaning like a whole change for art and everything, the minimum order quantity really is no less than 2,000. So the problem is I would need 2,000 copies in just a single language. So that's a tough call, particularly for a game of this magnitude. But if it hits big enough, it's something that I can offer as a late pledge, and maybe even late campaign if it really does hit big. Hopefully then I'll get enough interest, and suddenly somebody will go, I'll do the translation, I'll pay for the minimum order quantity, please just make it in this kind of, in this language. So, and I would be more than happy to do that, but I've got to have that demand,
Yeah.
So going to the rule book and all that, how was it to develop the rule book, and did that and what was I'm sure that was tied to like playtesting in some kind, and so how did the playtesting go as well?
Playtesting started off early on. I never really got bad feedback. There was out of about 600 playtests, I got two different people, and I mean it broke my heart, because I was like, oh my God, really, you don't like it? So I had 2 people that were adamantly against the style of the game. They did not like the game, and they felt like there was too much randomness. And what I did is I tried to get rid of randomness, and I actually gave more players more agency over time. And so the feedback, and that's one of the things too, is developing a game, particularly for this amount of years, to say that I'm the designer is really kind of a misnomer. I really feel like I'm the shepherd of everybody else's feedback. I'm the facilitator of all of the combined feedback and input from all these various people. So, the game now in its current iteration, and everything that the game is is how the rule book kind of also followed that same path, the evolution of the game and the evolution of the rule book. The final rule book for me to actually send out prototype copies broke me. Oh, I wrote it. I wrote the rule book. I have 18 versions of the rule book, and the first version was 36 pages, and the rule book now is down to 16 pages, and only 12 of those actually have rules. So I feel like I did really, really well on that. And I went at it about 20 different ways because it's not a procedural game. And that's the problem is most games are like, okay, here's how you do a phase and here's how you do it again. And then, and then when you're done here, go back to step one and, you can do it all over again. Most Euros are like that, but my game has so many interactive elements and everything is so, guess who's back? Everything is so,
that's what he's doing.
So everything is so interactive and tied that the writing a rule book is very difficult because nothing is at the beginning. It's it's like you kind of have to know everything to know everything, and so it's a very, very difficult teach. I have to kind of always just start and say, look, I'm about to just vomit a bunch of info at you. I know you're not going to but here it comes. And so that's a lot of times what happens is there's just so much data and it's not procedural. And you kind of have to know a little bit of everything to really get your first play in. But like I said, 2-3 turns into a game and most people go, oh my God, this is way easier than I ever thought it was going to be. And so that's my biggest compliment from somebody that plays the game is just going, I thought this game was going to be a beast. I thought it was going to be overwhelming. And you know what? By the end, I was like, oh my gosh, this game is so simple. It's so straightforward. And yet I feel like I have so much more control than most games I've ever played. So those are the kind of things that I just love to hear. And of course, it's 6 years of evolution to have gotten to this point. Right. So.
Yeah. Right.
Well, unfortunately, we're getting short on time here. Yes. We have hungry children upstairs. But I have 2 tiny questions for you. Sure. So first, the map tiles, like the hexes.
Yes.
Are there any specific orders that they'll have to go into, or is it completely random?
So when you build the map, and I'm sure you've probably seen the pictures.
You're not done yet. Keep telling.
So when you look at the pictures, the map is broken into 6 pie slices of terrains. And so each of those terrains is completely randomized. You flip all those hexes of, say, the rocky terrain. And the number of hexes and the type of hexes are identical from one terrain to the next. So there's no starting position that is, more lucrative than another. Everybody has 3 mountains, 1 lake, 4 crystal spaces, and you have the same number of habitats, but they're going to be arranged in a variety of different orders. And so that's what keeps everything different every game.
Yeah, very cool.
So that the player board is always very, very different. Sometimes you can have a huge mountain range. Other times you'll have 1 mountain scattered, 3 mountains scattered.
Right. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
My last question for you before we wrap it up is, what games are you playing right now that you're just loving?
Oh boy, last night we played
Betrayal.
That's such a new version. No, last night
I'm the spokesperson for Betrayal. I don't get paid, but I would like to be.
I will actually tell you, I track all my plays, and this is so sad that my memory is so bad I can't even tell you. We played Komet last night. We played Ankh last week, Ankh Gods of Egypt. I played Micro Macro Crime City with my kids.
Yes.
There is a brand new Kickstarter that came out recently called Thurgy, and I might be mispronouncing that. Very good game. I like the game quite a bit. We had some rules questions, but again, a little plug for whoever made that game. I backed it. Love the game. Some of the other games, I played Endless Winter recently. It was fine. It's a lot of mechanics. Warp Gate Beyond is made by and I'm gonna destroy his name, Archimperov. Oh God, it's terrible. I forget what nationality he is. he made some other games that I really, really like. And he made a game called Warpgate Beyond. Warpgate has a very similar feel, a little bit like Seismic. There's what I call more randomness in it than I liked, but I think we might need to play it again before I make any good determinations. But those are some of the games that I'm currently playing. I love Kickstarters. They show up at my house about every week. It seems like. So I'm always playing some of the latest Kickstarters, and I do show a lot of love to some of these 500 backer, Kickstarter games that don't get, the big hype. I love to see, all these smaller projects as well. I want to see everybody, have their passion projects come to life. So I've got all kinds of oddballs. People are like, "What game is this? I've never heard of this." I'm like, "I was one of 87 backers. Let's try it out."
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really love talking with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to hear about this game some more. And
Definitely.
I'm looking forward to it even more now.
I really enjoyed
Awesome.
meeting River.
Indeed, you guys can interview him next week. He's working on a game too.
Yeah.
I is dog.
What is your
It
favorite
involves
treat?
phones and balls. So.
I gotta speak dog here. So give me about a week.
No, don't scare him away. I want him to be my best friend. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for you guys reaching out to me. I love it. I love to, talk about just games in general, not just mine. I'm just so wonderful. So glad that people think my game is wonderful and that people actually want to talk about it. So I more than appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes. So yeah, that's it for us.
Yeah, that's
Thank
for
you
us.
again
We'll
for
post
coming on the
this
show.
next week.
Next
so in
week.
A,
The
in
show
a
will
week.
go up
Yep.
next week.
Sounds great. All right. I really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing it. I hope it reaches all kind of people. So
Yes, and
So do we.
Seismic is on Tabletop Simulator as well for anyone who wants to
it
try it
is.
out.
It is absolutely. The rule book is embedded in the mod. You can actually.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have to play it.
Yes, we're gonna have to play
Cracking my
this.
hands already.
I actually do. I do Discord teaches as well. If you actually are interested, I'll do a teach over Discord. I play the game. I do teaches with people all the time, and the game is a direct one-to-one correlation, but it's scripted, which is even better. It plays very fast, and it's the guy who did the mod is excellent. He's amazing. So if you guys are more than interested, let me know. I'll love to go through a whole play with you.
Yeah, we'll definitely
Definitely.
message you at some point then for sure.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you again. It's been wonderful talking with you.
Yeah.
Have
Absolutely.
a great campaign. We'll be right there with you the whole time.
Good luck.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Launch button.